Stepping up to the couch, it's Brian, who led the league last season in cracked screens. But with his new athletic case, it looks like that won't be the case. Touchdown, Brian!
Yo, what is up, guys? It's me, Zachary, back bringing some more daily NBA news for the fans from a fan. Lord, we got so much to talk about today, so I really suggest that you make yourself comfortable, sit down, because things are about to get crazy. But let's get into it. To start off, late last night, we got some of the most wild reports that I can ever remember hearing about coming out regarding the NBA or one of its players. Anyone who is probably on social media at all has probably heard of this story by now, and it's regarding Dwight Howard and his personal life. As one Twitter user who was a, transgender woman started accusing Dwight Howard of a lot of things. First off, saying that Dwight Howard's preference is to be with transgender women. Tweeting out, "I was afraid to speak, but today my life was threatened after I was sexually harassed, threatened, and manipulated by someone I respected. My ex-boyfriend, NBA player Dwight Howard, and his camp. I was also catfished by his disrespectful pastor." She then made it clear that she wasn't trying to call out Dwight Howard being into transgenders, but she was saying that she was more so upset that her life was threatened in some way and that Howard and his team tried to give her hush money to keep quiet. She then went on to give details about how the relationship formed, saying that they met on the show Wild 'N Out, and then Dwight Howard slid into her DMs about a week after that, and their relationship progressed from there, until one day the relationship ended because she claims that Dwight Howard cheated on her. Then she went on to release 3 different videos that were recordings of a phone call between her and someone that she was claiming was Dwight Howard. And all of these phone calls are extremely explicit, so there's no way that I can share them on this channel without my channel possibly being shut down. But the most important one was the conversation that they were having when she claims to have found out that Dwight Howard, the person that she claims is Dwight Howard, was having an affair, which of course made her really upset and prompted her to do all of this. But she wasn't quite done yet, as she then used an alternate Instagram account to message Dwight Howard and tried to get some sort of confession from him on there. That being said, if you look at this conversation thread and really pay attention to it, you would realize that she phrased all of the questions in a way that will make Dwight Howard look bad no matter how he responded. It was basically like the old "does your mom know that you're stupid" type of question. That being said, I do have to question why Dwight Howard would feel the need to respond to this message from someone that he doesn't know in the first place. I mean, if he never responded to this message at all, that would be the end of that. And the fact that he kept responding does start to make him look bad, because this was clearly a case where he should have just said nothing whatsoever. And that's what leads me to believe that this whole DM conversation could be fake as well, since there are apps out there that can allow you to create a fake Instagram conversation and make it look 100% real. And to be honest with you guys, I'm starting to think that this whole thing is fake news, or at the very least everything is being extremely over exaggerated by the person who was accusing Dwight Howard. Because not only could all of the videos that were showing the conversation between her and Dwight Howard have been faked, as well as the Instagram DMs have been fake, but all the actions that the accuser has taken seemingly have been premeditated. For example, the phone call. Like I said, 3 completely different videos of 3 completely separate phone calls were shared here. Some of them coming before the one where she claimed Dwight Howard was cheating on her, meaning that she was recording these conversations when everything was fine in their quote-unquote relationship. Before we go any further, that right there brings up a whole nother topic that I've seen a lot of people pointing out. People believing that the fact that she was recording these conversations is illegal, which it's actually not, as federal law requires just one party consent, which means that you can record a phone call or conversation so long as you are a party to the conversation. Essentially meaning that as long as whoever else is on the line knows that you are indeed part of the conversation, you have 100% rights to record everything that's going on. It's only illegal if no one else knows that you're on the line and you're recording a private conversation between 2 people in which you're not involved in. So if all of this is true, and if those calls were indeed between her and Dwight Howard could not press charges for her releasing this to the public, since they had every right to record. That being said, the mere fact that they were recording all of the conversations in the first place brings into question their intentions from the beginning. It makes it look as if they were planning for all of this to happen and were stringing Dwight Howard along while gathering evidence against him at the same exact time, trying to make him look bad, which in the end makes the person who was behind all of this look worse than it actually does for Dwight Howard. That is unless, of course, the part of her being sexually assaulted and having her life being threatened is true. But then again, if that was the case, you really think she would have went to the authorities instead of posting it online. Because if you were just sexually assaulted and you really felt as if your life was in danger, whose first thought is, let me go online and post this to Twitter? No, you're going to be calling the proper authorities. So that's another reason to, at the very least, think that all of this is being extremely exaggerated. And not to mention that this is the same person who was caught trying to expose Playboy Cardi for the same thing last year. Once again, using fake Instagram DMs in a move to gain some sort of publicity. And if this is indeed fake news, then not only is the person who was accusing Dwight Howard for doing all of this complete scum for trying to tarnish the name of an innocent person just to shine the spotlight on themselves, but it also means that Dwight Howard would have every right to press charges against this person for defamation of character, since it is illegal to knowingly falsely accuse someone of doing things like this. And the punishment for this is stated to be imprisonment for up to 2 years, a fine, or both. And if this really is fake news, then I would strongly encourage Dwight Howard to seek some form of legal action, not necessarily to get back at the person who was doing this, but to kind of send a message to everyone out there that thinks about doing stuff like this, who has tried stuff like this in the past, maybe gotten away with it, that it's not okay, it's not cool, and you can go down for stuff like this. All of that being said, I do have to point out the fact that it is Dwight Howard that we're talking about here, and let's not act like at some point in time all of us haven't thought this guy was up to something. He's been a little suspicious in his time. Next up in the news, we have to talk about Kawhi Leonard and Greg Popovich. As yesterday, Greg Popovich went on record to say that Kawhi Leonard was never a leader for the San Antonio Spurs. Kawhi was a great player, but he wasn't a leader or anything. Manu Ginobili and Patty Mills were the leaders. Kawhi's talent will always be missed, but the leadership wasn't his deal at the time. That may come as he progresses, but Manu and Patty filled that role last year, and LaMarcus came a long way in that regard also. Now, I have seen people feeling a couple of different ways about this. Some people feel as if Greg Popovich just took a massive shot at Kawhi Leonard, while on the other hand, other people are saying, well, he's kind of spitting facts here. And personally, I think this leans more towards facts than it does Greg Popovich taking shots at Kawhi Leonard. Look, it's no secret that the Spurs and Greg Popovich were preparing Kawhi Leonard for the leadership role. They wanted him to take over the team eventually. That time never fully came, especially since last year he didn't play. And I think the people who thought that this was Greg Popovich taking a shot at Kawhi Leonard are kind of getting a couple of things mixed up. And that is being the team's best player and being a team's leader. See, Kawhi Leonard was the best player on the San Antonio Spurs for the past few years. That doesn't mean that he was necessarily the leader. Leader doesn't always equal the best player. That being said, it does pique my curiosity why Greg Popovich didn't say that Tony Parker wasn't a leader for the Spurs in the past or last year. And the last bit of news for today once again revolves around Markelle Fultz, as we have gotten reports out saying that the Philadelphia 76ers no longer consider Fultz as part of their long-term plans, and that they're now willing to trade the former #1 overall pick. Some sources have said that despite the team's statements, Fultz is no longer in the Sixers' long-term plan, that they are no longer using his shoulder as an excuse for his performances. If the 76ers have tired of this saga and are considering trading Fultz, and multiple sources have said they are, his trade value must have declined a great deal since the start of the season. The team might be able to get a late first-round pick for Fultz from a desperate club willing to take a chance, or the Sixers could try for a player with an expiring contract. That would enable them to avoid paying the $9.7 million that Fultz is guaranteed for next season. If I'm being honest here, the only team that comes to mind when I think of Markelle Fultz being traded is the Phoenix Suns. Now, I know a lot of people will like for the Hornets and the Sixers to make a deal with Kemba Walker for Markelle Fultz. I definitely do not see the Charlotte Hornets doing that, considering Michael Jordan is still hell-bent on keeping Kemba Walker this summer. So that just leaves us with the Phoenix Suns, and I think they are the best suited team to make a deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's just because the Phoenix Suns desperately need a point guard. Anyone. And considering the situation that the Suns are in and how they're not really looking to win games anymore this year anyways, why not take a chance on Markelle Fultz? What's the worst that could happen? And as far as what the trade could consist of, I think Trevor Ariza for Markelle Fultz will be a win-win situation for both clubs, because at some point this season, Trevor Ariza is going to ask to be bought out from the Phoenix Suns, so they're going to wind up losing from nothing, so why not trade him now while you can still get something in return from him? And as for the Philadelphia 76ers, sure, it does suck losing your first-round overall draft pick for a one-year rental or half-a-year rental of Trevor Ariza, but at this point, You're trying to compete in the Eastern Conference. You're trying to win. What happened with Markelle Fultz happened. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out, but you gotta move on. And Trevor Ariza would be a great fit for this Philadelphia 76ers team. That though was going to do it for all of the news from yesterday, so now we have to take a quick look at what went on in the games from last night. The Cleveland Cavaliers just won their second game in a row for the first time this season, as after they beat the Sixers a couple of nights ago, they followed up by beating the Houston Rockets last night, 117-108. Granted, there was no Chris Paul for Houston, as he was resting after his overtime game against Detroit on Friday night. The rookie Colin Sexton with a career high 29 points on the night. The Denver Nuggets were able to get the 105-98 win over the Thunder yesterday, mainly because of Russell Westbrook, who was 1 of 12 from beyond the arc. It was to the point where even the head coach of the Thunder, Billy Donovan, who has never criticized Westbrook for anything in his life, had to chime in on Russ's shot selection yesterday, saying, "I'm sure like any guy on our team, there's gonna be shots where you wish you could have back and take differently. Some of the threes were good, and to be honest with you, some of them were not good." More than half of Westbrook's field goal attempts from yesterday were threes, so it's not hard to imagine that if he had opted to take better shots last night, that the outcome of this game easily could have been different. Golden State Warriors logged their second win in a row after losing 4 straight, this time with a 117-116 thriller win against the Sacramento Kings. Durant scoring 44 points to go along with 13 rebounds and 7 assists, while on the other hand, Klay Thompson came up big when it mattered, tipping in his own miss with 5 seconds left to go in the game to get the Warriors the win. Who would have thought that the Dallas Mavericks would be just as good as the Boston Celtics so far this year, as after the Mavericks defeated Boston 113-104 last night, both teams have a 500 record on the year so far, and you can already tell that Boston is starting to get extremely frustrated with themselves as they were taking out their anger on the Mavericks in this game. Jaylen Brown took a cheap shot at Luka Doncic in the third quarter, and Marcus Smart was still trying to fight after the game too. Look, it's really concerning that 20 games into the season, the Celtics still haven't figured this thing out. And the Bucks bounced back from their ugly loss against the Suns and claimed the 135-129 win over the Spurs. Giannis was amazing as always with 34 points, 18 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Bucks as a whole just couldn't miss yesterday as they shot 57% from the field. Andrew Wiggins went absolutely scoreless, 0 of 12 from the field in 29 minutes, and not only that, but the man only had 1 assist, 1 rebound, no steals, and no blocks. I guess the one good thing you can say is that he didn't foul anyone either, so it's like he just wasn't there. Luckily for him though, Karl Anthony Towns picked up the slack, scoring 35 points as well as grabbing 22 rebounds in the Wolves' 111-96 win over the Bulls. And finally, Anthony Davis set this game out with a minor hip injury, and like always, when AD misses a game, the Pelicans lose, this time to the Washington Wizards, 124-114. Otto Porter Jr. finally playing like a player who gets paid as much as he does, with 29 points and 7 rebounds. And that is going to bring us to the player of the day, where you guys have the opportunity to vote for who you think was the best player in the league last night by clicking the little eye icon at the top right hand corner of the video. Just remember though, the only players whose team won are eligible to win player of the day, and yesterday that player was Andre Drummond with his 23 points, 20 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 3 steals. That is going to do it for today though, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, then you should really consider subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with everything that goes on in the NBA on a daily basis. Thank you once again for watching though. You guys already know that you are the real MVPs, but until tomorrow, I'm out of here. Peace!